Welcome to the Hardwater Fishing Show. Jeff and Jason talk tactics, gear, and ice fishing legends.
We are alive, Season 8, Episode 1. It's the second week of October 2024, and we are kicking off this year with a show on our last trip from last year, Jeff.
Yeah.
It's good to see you. I haven't talked to you since February last year.
Well, maybe not quite.
Yeah, we've talked.
Yes.
We've talked. We haven't fished together, though.
No, true.
I mean,
true.
I've invited you like half a dozen times. How many times you invited me fishing this year?
Well, you know, my spot isn't there anymore. I don't have my black spot anymore.
Yeah.
So
I know. Yeah, it's hard. We struggled to get together in the summer just because life, you know?
Yeah, I have this thing called like travel softball in my life.
Oh, yeah.
And so that takes up a fair amount of my life. And then also like youth football that fills in some space in the summer and the fall.
It does. Yeah.
So, but that's why ice fishing is awesome, because
absolutely
that time of year where I don't have those things and we can get out in the lake.
And our preview topic is Ice Fishing Lake Winnibigoshish with Northwoods Dave and Oli.
Yeah, last February. Other people do this, and I'm really glad we did this because we did this very late February. The reality is, from our podcast perspective, we can see how many people are listening.
Yeah, you guys quit listening.
Yeah, so
we can stop.
Right,
we can go on to other stuff. I don't know where y'all go in February, but y'all leave.
Spring break, Mexico, or
every
something.
One of you. You're in Mexico.
Yeah, but yeah, so we didn't publish it. But the awesome part is now we have a real ice fishing experience and talk to put out at the beginning of the season.
Yeah,
there's no ice.
Trying to scratch that itch a little bit so you can hear about our exploits from last year. And you get to hear from our good friends Oli and Northwoods Dave, and who doesn't like to hear them two ramble on forever?
And we kind of copy this. I mean, if you look at the pros, right? Like the people who really do this, they all do this.
I think we're pros, dude.
Are we pros? Oh, all right.
This is Season 8.
Yeah.
This show has gone to second grade.
All right. So we're second grade.
The question is, are we going to get it through high school or not?
I don't know.
I mean, how many years?
Well, yeah.
I don't know.
And we had a few changes, not like really big changes that anybody's going to notice, but
we had really. Go ahead.
We had to change our Patreon platform.
But before you get into that, can we have a beverage?
Oh yes, of course. Before we get into Patreon,
I'm parched.
I am also parched. All right. So what do you got, Jay?
Oh,
Natty Ice?
No, I'm going to the classics. So I happened to be in Minnesota last weekend. And so I was able to pick up a beer that I can't buy locally, unfortunately. And I've quite enjoyed it. I will raise it slowly into the camera's view.
Oh, the old style. All right. It kind of gets blurred out with the background.
I know, but it's there. Everybody knows. Oh, that's so good.
Oh. All right.
Yeah, there's nothing like it.
That's why they sell it in like one liquor store in the entire world.
Well, I mean, yeah.
Are you sure that's not just like Miller Lite and they just put a different wrapper on it?
It could be. I mean, who knows? It could. It's not Miller Lite. I can tell you that.
Okay. Like it's just the big brewery. They have, okay, today we're making a vat of old style, and then they make some and put it on a shelf. And there's
I do wonder about that. I do wonder, like, how many flavors can there really be? But I like it. Whether it's whatever, it's good. I drink it.
I suspect the cost is marketing, not beer making.
When's the last time you've seen an old style ad?
Never.
There you go. So unlike Bud Light, Busch Light, Budweiser, Coors Light, it doesn't even need marketing. It's so good.
Speaking of, not to dwell on beer, but I guess it's the first episode. We're going to dwell.
Yeah, we can dwell.
We're going to dwell on beer.
It's our show. We can dwell if we want to.
I jumped on the bandwagon with the craft beers, and I still enjoy craft beer because we're going to have a craft beer.
You were driving the wagon for a while.
Yeah, go. Go horses. Yeah. So but I think it's more of as I've aged, my body maybe doesn't like them very much. It kind of
Oh,
keeps them.
like Gary? Is it the same
Yeah,
as
it's
Gary?
kind of Gary. Yeah, kind of like my Gary situation. I've gotten old and soft, and so I have to be very careful with craft beers. But man, I had a Busch Light this summer,
Yeah.
and it
And
was darn good. Gotta say, like,
nostalgia.
oh, although not as good. We were in Kansas City for a softball tournament in Kansas City this summer. It was like 104 and hot, right? And in Minnesota, when you go to a softball game, there is no alcohol served at anything, which is fine because do you really want your parents drinking while they're
Those games are ruckusy enough without
yeah.
giving
Yes.
alcohol to those
Yes.
softball parents.
Exactly. You don't need to add fuel to that fire sometimes.
You do not. That would be bad.
Yeah. But in Kansas City, apparently, or in Kansas, I don't know if we're in Kansas City, Kansas, or Kansas City, Missouri. I actually don't remember which state we were in. I'm sure I'm getting some hate mail from Kansas now. But we were in Kansas City. I believe it was Kansas. And they have this awesome softball complex and they have tap beer. It's like you're at the ball game, right? And I got a Coors Light when it was 104 degrees outside and you have an ice cold Coors Light. Oh, man, let me tell you, that was good. Oh, there you are. You froze.
You froze. It wasn't me. Oh, crap.
One of us froze.
It's me. I just got your internet connection is unstable.
Oh, all right.
You know, why would my internet, Jeff, you're a tech guy. You work on computers, so that means you know all things. I have fiber. Why? Why is my internet connection unstable, Jeff?
So we've had this discussion, and wow, are we all over the place on the Hardwater Fishing Show today? But I, in my day job, am pretty techie. I mean, that's my day job.
Yeah, he's got a pocket protector and little pins, and he carries around some sort of LAN cable in his pocket. But anyway,
I mean, we do rule the world, just so you know. So you notice Google and Amazon are not ruling the world. So I don't work for those places, but anyways, so the reason you've had this problem, and we've talked about this before, is, and you have a principle about this, but
I do.
When you get internet into your home, there's a router or there's a modem that converts analog signals to digital signals. Yep. And that is connected to a wireless router.
Yes.
And so in your case, you have them together.
I rent one from the people.
Yes. And they will give you the crappiest one that exists on the planet. So you're paying for a V8 to come into your house, and then you have a single barrel carburetor distributing your power to the house, right? Like, I mean, it's you need to go buy a mesh wireless Wi-Fi system, and you will never have a Wi-Fi problem again. It's
my
not
house
your internet.
Is like 1,000 square feet.
Doesn't matter.
I should not need a mesh router thing.
I'm telling you.
All right. Anyway, let's move on. Yes. I don't like your answer.
I'm really thirsty. Well,
I don't like your answer.
Go back to your principles. I am drinking.
Let's talk about fishing. You don't know shit about this.
All right. So I'm drinking. Yeah, I know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, whatever.
So so I'm drinking a craft beer called Yama Jamma Harvest Ale. Yama Jamma.
All right.
So this beer, so you know a beer is really good when your friend brings it over and says, I don't like this. Why don't you try it? If you don't like it, dump it out.
Okay.
So that's where this came from. So let me see.
Are you going to drink that thing or just?
Yeah, no, I'm going to. So anyways, this is Yama Jamma, the story. Crunchy leaves, casseroles, sweater weather. Yama Jamma is our tribute to the coziest of seasons, brewed with sweet potatoes and a blend of warm, fragrant spices. Our harvest ale captures the sights, sounds, and flavors of fall. The goods: malts, Vienna, Simpsons, DRC, Dextrin, Red X, Caramel 120, and Naked Oats. Wow, it's a family show.
Sweet potatoes?
Yeah, so it's sweet potato beer.
Do you get ranch with that?
Yeah, hops, Glacier. Yeast is A10 Darkness, and Specialty ingredients are sweet potatoes and spices, ginger, allspice, cinnamon, nutmeg, and vanilla.
What are you? Is it okay? Just drink
There we
whatever
go.
that is.
There we go.
That is just not even. How's that legal?
Wow, that's weird.
You think? I could based on it sounded like someone was cleaning out their cupboard and they just threw it in a vat and tried to make a beer out of it.
I mean, I'm going to drink it. It's not as bad.
We'll
as
add this to the list of things we'll never get a sponsorship from.
Yes, it's not as bad as that. That one weird beer last year that I couldn't drink. But we won't go down that dark path. People will show up at my house. I mean, they'll make fun of me.
So if we end up with any new listeners, I don't know what episode that was, but Jeff had a visitor.
I disparaged a beer I did not.
It was the best practical joke in the history of the world.
Oh my gosh.
It was so good. Anyway, I hate to, we've really been elaborating on beer, but I have to finish this thought.
Yes.
So people, when it's hot out, like you drank Busch Light, right? And you're
Coors Light. We're just waiting here for Jason's internet to catch up, apparently.
Okay.
Don't worry, you don't need that mesh router.
Tomorrow, I'm going to have a very spirited conversation with my internet provider.
Don't spend $100 on a mesh router. Waste your days and hours and weeks fighting with them.
I will. We're going to have a conversation.
We're going to
have a conversation.
Enjoy.
It'll be fun. Anyway, I don't know where you lost me. Where'd you lose me?
I lost you, and you're like, we were going to stop talking about beer because we're like very far into this conversation and we haven't talked about ice fishing yet. But
we're going to finish this.
Yes,
we're going to finish this. So when we were at Dave's, our old Northwoods Dave's this summer.
Yep.
And I drank a number of his premiums, Grain Belt. What I've come to realize is Grain Belt in the bottle is like the best in the heat.
Fine wine.
It is wonderful. It is like one pull, it's half the bottle's gone.
Yeah.
It's that good. So that's all I wanted to share.
Okay. All right.
That's it. Cool. Moving on.
All right. So something very important we need to talk about, Jason, is our patrons.
Yes, we love our patrons. They help us stay in good graces with our wives.
So, like I said, our patron platform, we had to switch from it. I don't know. Everything's working now, but it was a change we had to make. And so we're on Patreon, which is like a different website. And you can find us out there. I'll put the link out here. But so we had to cancel the other one, which meant, the few people that were helping support the show pay for our website and hosting and that kind of stuff. I'm like, well, I hope they follow us. And I mean, they're awesome. They followed us over to our new platform. They help us pay for the show and pay for the stuff. Cause I mean, it doesn't cost a ton of money, but it's still to personal fund it. I get kind of in trouble with the wives, right? I mean, it adds up. And so, just want to thank all the patrons. And then so we had a few people sign up at the legend status, which is, a $20 per month commitment. You can cancel it whenever you want, but as part of that, you get a hat. So as you can see, this isn't the hat because my head is big and I have to buy a special hat. We have a specialty hat for the big head on Jeff. But it has this logo on it, and so those were sent out, and then also the other people got some stickers or and access to our Discord channel. So yeah, I mean, just thank you for the support. It really, really helps us make the show, honestly. Absolutely. Like literally. Yeah, I mean, it pays for the hosting and it's not free, so we have to pay for that. So I appreciate that. Cool. All right. Don't really have any listener news. I guess people haven't really started chattering about ice fishing too much. I mean, it's starting in some circles. In some circles, like our circle, like when the new ice fishing stuff came out this summer, I was looking at it, right? Because I already think about, we need to talk about this. We need to research it. So we're thinking about the things. I mean, from probably like ice out to July, I don't think about ice fishing too much. But like once you get to August, it's time, right? Like, I mean, it doesn't seem like it because it's hot, but that's really when I start thinking, well, it's going to get cooler soon, and then we're going to have to think about ice fishing and the show. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I hear that.
All right. You want to walk us through show business, Jason?
Yeah, best places to interact with us on social media is Instagram and Facebook. We're now back to checking our email on a regular basis because we're entering back into show season. So feel free to shoot us an email as well at hardwatershow@gmail.com. We are on X at Hardwater Show. I did start a Hardwater, what's the Facebook one?
Oh, Threads? Is that what it's called?
Threads. We now have Hardwater
Okay.
Show on Threads as well, Jeff.
I don't even know what Threads is.
It's all the people that are tired of X went there.
Ah, gotcha.
And it's integrated with Instagram actually heavily.
Okay. Okay.
So if you're on Instagram a lot, Threads is probably an easier platform to flip to than X is.
Gotcha.
So feel free. I'll try to be posted on Threads, and Jeff can handle X because I'm actually banned personally for some reason from X. Although I've only ever posted like one thing in my whole life, like 22 years ago, and somehow I'm banned. No idea. Don't care.
You probably set your password to password or something, and somebody logged in and did
could
some
be.
bad stuff.
No, I looked like I looked at my profile and I can't figure out whatever. I made Elon Musk mad somehow, and he took umbrage with whatever I said and banned me from his platform.
Maybe that's your internet problem. He's after you with Starlink.
Probably. Let's see. So TikTok, are we TikToking this year, Jeff?
We do have a TikTok channel. So
but do we TikTok?
Well, I put some shorts on there, sure.
We've been ticking and talking.
Yeah, a little bit.
We're still TikToking.
Yeah, we'll be on TikTok.
Poco, TikTok, YouTube. Our whole show's available on YouTube. So if you like that platform, you actually can see us talk. If you want to. I'm not saying that either one of us has a face for video.
Yeah.
But if you just really want to see what in the hell we look like and want to use that as your platform, you're more than welcome to have that. We are not responsible for damages. And I think that's it. That's show business.
Awesome. Yep. We have no fact checks because that was all of last year. And certainly it's been expired for any kind of challenge.
Yeah. So to remind, as we come into the new season, you have exactly till the next show to submit a fact check. Otherwise, anything we've said is now history and it is written in stone, and we cannot be approached as to the fact if it's real or not. It is. It's just real at that point. So if we say something that's crap, you got to get to us right away. Otherwise, it's just real. You have to accept it as reality, whether you like it or not.
Yep. So
that's the
all
rules.
Of last
That's
year
the rules of the show, folks. I don't make them. We just live by them.
Season 7 is all fact checked.
Fact. Everything in season 7 is fact. Period.
Except everything we say on here is our opinion.
Unless but it's now fact. After 30 days, it becomes fact.
Okay.
It's our opinion for 30 days. After 30 days, after whatever, till the next show, might be only a week or two, it is now fact. So it is not, however, the opinion of anybody we may be associated with in our non-podcasting lives.
Yes, exactly. Yes, exactly. All right. So current events. We got some current event stuff.
Fantastic.
So this is just a quote that I ran across, but it reminded me of our podcast. I don't know what I'm talking about, but I say it with conviction.
That is like the state of the world right now, quite frankly. That is the truth. And it always has been the truth, quite frankly.
Yeah.
So you say it loud enough and forceful enough, it must be true.
And Andy Carlson said that. And I don't know why I wrote that in the show notes, but apparently I thought it was good. So I put it there. The other quote I heard this week was, so there's the new Joker movie.
Okay.
And it's apparently a musical and is getting very poor reviews. Like people are walking out, or at least according to social media. I mean, I haven't seen it. I don't know. I don't have statistics on this, but I told somebody, I'm like, gosh, I heard that new Joker movie was not very good. And so one of the softball dads goes, Jeff, sometimes ideas are meant to stay ideas. And I just thought that was so funny. It just was a good quote, right?
Yeah.
I don't think he made that one up, but thank you to Tony for his quote of sometimes ideas are just meant to stay ideas.
People have told me just because you think it doesn't mean you need to share
Yes, exactly.
it. That is also a very relevant quote to my life. Just because a thought formed in your head,
Right.
Jason, doesn't mean you need to tell us about that thought.
Okay.
So,
So the next thing is this was in the outdoor news. Uh, and forward facing sonar, I guess, is a hotter topic than I thought. I thought it was kind of like not that big a deal, but they were talking about the bass like tournament,
yeah.
and they were saying, I mean, they had here are these rules. This is the rules they're talking about. Um, and the bass, they limit to one transducer on your boat and a limit of 55 inches of screen. Like, think about that. Like on your boat, like you can have what they're up to 12 inches or 14 inches or whatever. You got a boat. So this is how they're limiting electronics for tournaments. And they said currently they have 2 to 4 transducers on their boat for forward facing sonar to cover so much area for these
I mean,
tournaments.
if you think about that, if this is your living and your
Yes.
living is dependent on catching fish and the rules allow, you're going to do things like,
Yep.
why wouldn't you have a forward sonar on the front,
Yep.
each left and right in the back of the boat? So when you're scanning an area, I mean, you're getting it
Yep.
all without
Yep.
touching anything. You don't have to touch anything. You don't
Yeah.
have to turn it, I mean, but I
Yeah.
also understand why you'd need to adjust. And
Yeah.
bass fishing is such a different duck, really, than
Totally is.
ice fishing is. But
Yeah. I just thought it was interesting. Like, I thought, like, because they've been talking about limiting electronics since electronics came out. The first flasher or whatever. Oh boy, we better get rid of this because everybody's going to fish the lake out. So this is really interesting. There was in the outdoor news. I love outdoor news. Uh, it's hard because you have to pick through the hunting articles this time of year, and I know you're more of a hunter than I am, Jason. But there's a lot of like duck and
not lately, to be
yeah,
honest. I'm
yeah.
I'm really in the twilight of that at the moment.
But
Fishing is really my thing right now.
yeah, me too.
I would say that's my deal. So
So this Natalie Ryder she's a staff writer for Outdoor News, had an article, Hatchlings of Aging Big Mouth Buffalo Floundering. So this is why I talked about this. This was crazy. So a big mouth buffalo is a fish that's native to Minnesota. I've never caught one. They generally are considered kind of a non-game fish, right? There really isn't a limit on them.
like a rough fish.
Rough fish. But they live, the average age of this fish is 80.
Wow.
And this is what blew my mind. Because this guy is like, I notice all the fish are the same size. Well, they were in this lake, Rice Lake, which I think I've actually been to this area. They said it's been 50 years since a successful recruitment of young fish. That's crazy.
Holy crap.
Like, there's been no little fish for 50 years. And I don't know how they define recruitment. I don't know how exactly that works, but this is what I thought was funny. It says, research shows annual spawn is up to the female fish. So anyways, yeah, that's what I thought. But yeah, I said they were having babies, but no small fish by July. Like they just didn't make it.
So were they dying of like environmental factors? Or are they getting eaten up?
They didn't know, but
I mean, because that to me is like a significant part of the equation.
yeah.
Has something changed environmentally, or is there just so much other forage?
So they said because this is a fish it's a rough fish that isn't studied, they don't really know. This was like a study they did.
But it's interesting if it's a canary kind of a situation, right? Is it a bellwether for other situations?
But they're like, or it could be normal. They don't know. They have no clue.
No, that's crazy.
However, I think we found somebody we need to have on the show.
Who?
So Dr. Alec Lackman is I'm going to say this wrong, ichthyologist, a fish researcher. ICHTHYOLOGIST. So this guy works for the U of M, and he researches fish for a living.
Well, yeah, let's call that
So
dude.
we need to get him on the show, but
Yeah.
he was part of this research that they did on this lake. So
Okay.
if you want to know the whole article, obviously get the Outdoor News. We don't get any money from them, but I like to read it. And
It's a good reminder that we're not sponsored by anybody at this point.
just our patrons sponsor
Yeah.
us.
That's
So,
how we fund the show.
Yeah,
And it's not because we suck. It's just because we want to be able to say whatever we want to say.
pretty much. Yep.
Yeah, pretty much.
We are not really beholden to anybody. So,
Well, I mean,
my
Aaron and Sherry.
Sherry. Okay. Commercially, I have
Commercially,
yes.
we're free spirits.
Yes.
Otherwise, we're not.
Yeah. Otherwise, we're not. Yes. You're right. All right. So that I just thought you should read that article. It was really interesting about bigmouth buffalo, a fish that has no limit that people can go catch. I mean, I've never seen this fish, never caught one, don't know what they look like even. So I guess they're on my wall. I have the likes of. Next thing, Saturday, 10 a.m. this coming Saturday. Hopefully, if I'm good, I can get this out before them. Maybe Friday. We'll see. Tuned Up Custom Rods, which is local here. They make custom rods. I have one of them. They're having an open house on Saturday, so it's going to be my first like ice fishing event. And they make summer rods too, so to call it an ice fishing event might be not totally fair, but it's in, I believe, Blaine, maybe. You can search this up on Facebook, but anyways, they're close to me. They're in Minnesota, near the Twin Cities. So I'm gonna go check out I have one of their rods. I like them. Maybe I'll get another one, or maybe not. We'll see.
Hey, Jeff, you brought something to mind, and I would say that, while we tend to talk a little about Minnesota or Iowa, we are a worldwide show. So if you have a local expert in your area that you think would be great for us to have on the show, absolutely shoot us the information. We've had people on from all over the country,
yes,
and we'd like to continue that. I think we tend to trend towards some Minnesota information because that's what the algorithms show us as we look for information on the internet. So please feel free to share. We'd love to have people on.
And it's also what we know, right? Like we know, Iowa, we know Minnesota. We've been to North Dakota last year. We've been to, Canada. We've been a little bit, but not like all over the world. I really want to go to the mountains out west, though. We see so many awesome pictures and stuff from mountains in the background and you're ice fishing and the trout. And I need to get there.
Yeah, it's on the list.
But then we looked at the drive time and we still have
drive time doesn't scare me.
We need more time to take off though. Like
that's the issue.
Right. But we got to do it before we can't get there.
Yeah, no doubt.
All right.
Where are we at?
Mille Lacs Scuba Cleanup. So this was interesting. And we're in current events here. So there was some concern by people who live in Mille Lacs. And Mille Lacs is, if you don't know, it's one of the biggest lakes in Minnesota. I've fished it quite a bit. We talked about it on the show quite a bit. But last year and over the past few years, there's been a lot of push of like how much trash people are leaving and kind of like our anglers being messy or leaving garbage behind. And so they brought this team of divers that were actually from Lake Tahoe in California, and they had done scuba diving to clean up the lake, basically, right? They would scuba dive and pull stuff out of the lake to clean it up. And they said when they were in Lake Tahoe, they were pulling like 6,000 pounds of garbage out of the bottom of the lake. And so, with all the kind of news and talk about, people were concerned about how much garbage was in the lake from people ice fishing. Summer fishing too, but it seemed more focused on ice fishing. So they did some scuba diving around where people usually ice fish, where they have their wheelhouses and such. And really ended up, they did not find very much garbage.
That's awesome. Good job, everybody. Good job.
Yes. So they said that, they found a few things like a boat anchor or like a bottle. So here's kind of what they think, that only the heavy stuff really gets to the bottom the lighter stuff eventually just blows and washes up to shore.
Sure.
So what people see on the shoreline that think, oh my gosh, how much more is in the lake? Actually, they're seeing most of it, right?
Okay.
Which is still isn't good. Like, you don't want garbage in there, but
No.
I mean, they said, this obviously wasn't like a scientific study. This was just some guys going, hey, a lot of people ice fish in this spot. Let's go down there and see how much garbage is on the bottom of the lake.
They find a Zippo?
Yeah, I mean, they said they found some, like a phone, but basically it has to be heavy enough to not get washed up to shore. They said most things the wind brings in, and yeah, exactly.
Was it Ole or Dave that lost the Zippo?
Yeah, it was Ole. Or no, Dave. It was Dave. It was Dave.
And what was he doing at the time?
Yeah, we're not going to talk about that. This is a family show. That's too, people will stop listening to the show if we explain that one. So, but we didn't drop it down the hole intentionally, right? It's just
no, it was absolutely an accident.
Right. But
yeah.
Accidents happen, and I mean, you do your best. But I'm sure many people have lost cell phones down the hole, right?
Even you.
Yeah, even me. And there's just not much you can do about it. You don't want to. I mean, it's
I've lost a number of ice scoops.
Yeah,
taken the dive.
So you would think those would show up because they're saying heavy things, but they also did say there's so many zebra mussels in that lake that everything is covered in zebra mussels. So like they would see something that they would think was a garbage, and it was just a rock covered in zebra mussels, right? So they said it's hard to find everything, but I've seen the bottom of Mille Lacs, like the lake, like on cameras and stuff.
Yeah.
And, it's just, and there's different parts of the lake, but it just looks like a big flat of mud and sand, right? I mean, there's a couple rocks here and there, but it's just kind of a vast ground of nothing, really. I mean, you can see some lines where like, I don't know if there are creatures down there or fish running on the bottom of the lake, but you can see some indentations and stuff in the ground sometimes. But yeah. Anyway,
okay.
So I thought it was good news. I mean, they, to me, not finding garbage, I think they thought maybe they'd go down there and just find like beer cans and garbage and stuff all over the place.
Sure.
And that was not what they found.
Well, that's wonderful. That's actually really good news. Good job.
And okay. Guess we can talk about this last one here. Lake Detective Steve McComas, he's in the Outdoor News all the time. Some things they were talking about how phosphorus can impact lakes, not in a good way.
Absolutely.
And they said they kind of thought it, but in the 70s they did some studies and linked it to high algae blooms. So like phosphorus in lakes is not good. And they said that most commonly that comes from wastewater treatment plants. Not that they're dumping raw sewage in there, but like they would, process the stuff, and then the water might go either in the lake intentionally or not in the lake. But they said this stuff doesn't go away; it can be there for decades. So they talked a little bit about like Lake Minnetonka used to have a couple bays up until the 60s where they would just pump this water into the lake, and it's still there in some places. Those are the bays where the highest milfoil and that kind of stuff is. So, and then he also said it used to be a practice that farmers would put manure on the ice in the winter. Oh my gosh!
Thinking it would help the lake grow.
Yeah, they thought it was a good thing, right? Until they were like, oh, maybe this is such a good thing. But anyways, he just talked about a little bit about phosphorus, and they do core samples on how so they can help restore the lake. I think they're always looking to do that. So one last thing I think in news he also talked about overfishing and how once a lake becomes overfished, it's very difficult for it to recover. There was a study done in the southern lake where they put a bunch of bass in a small 80-acre lake, and then they had 3 people like catch as many bass as they could, and it said in 3 days they caught 80% of the bass in the lake.
My question, I understand like 80%, and bass are a whole different critter.
Yeah.
But, what is the definition of overfishing?
Yeah, I don't know.
Like, you'd have to know like the total volume or size,
right?
And I think lakes can get overfished for a particular size of fish.
Yes.
Especially on a smaller lake. And then and we've talked about this like with respect to bluegills and stuff and panfish.
Yep.
and in the time it takes and just the genetics around, it's a genetic trait like a tall person for some panfish to get
Yeah.
bigger. And so once you take all those genetics out, you end up with short fish.
Yeah. Yep. So yeah, he was just talking about wasn't even as much about the overfishing. It was more about like once it's overfished, whatever that threshold is, it's very, like to your point, it's very hard to recover.
Yeah.
It doesn't just come back in a few
No.
years, right? It takes more effort from support from like stocking the lake or something like that to really get it back.
Well, I mean, it's like that Simpsons episode.
With Blinky, the three-eyed fish.
Jeff has this look on his face like, where's he going? And I'm not going to get all the details right, but like they had one thing and then they got another thing to eat the thing and then they got
Oh,
another thing to eat
yeah.
the thing.
Yes.
And the iguanas were involved,
Yes.
right? And
Yes.
it was this whole mess
Yes.
because it throws off where I'm going with this is it throws off the whole
Yeah.
ecosystem when you overfish one particular game fish
Yeah.
that's controlling another type of game fish that's controlling
Yep.
another type of game fish. And so it's not just about putting that top predator back
Right.
because it trickles down and screws everything up.
Yep. Yeah. I know which one you're talking about now. Yeah. There was the town got taken over by lizards at the end because they kept on like trying to, oh, well, we have too many flies, so we need more lizards. And now
that episode.
Now we have too many lizards and they've taken over the town. Yeah. Yeah. And there's no natural predator or something. So
yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
But I mean, we've done that, like humans have done that historically throughout the ages of we do one thing to help fix something else and we introduce a species, be it an animal, a vegetable, or a mineral, and down the road we go.
Yeah, it sounds like a game: animal, vegetable, mineral. All right, so that's what I had for current events. I mean, obviously, we're not quite to ice fishing yet. There's, to my knowledge, there is nowhere. Maybe Alaska or Antarctica or something we can go ice fishing, but nowhere in the 48. That's for sure.
So we're going to move on here pretty shortly to our topic.
Yes.
Now that we're an hour in. But I did want to, Jeff, we didn't really talk. Traditionally, our first episode, we've talked just a little about what our plans are for the season. I don't want to do that, but I do want to I want to give people the tickler that next episode, we'll talk about what our plans are for the season.
Yeah.
And talk about like what our personal goals are for the next season. I actually got a call from one of my fishing buddies this week and we're like, okay. And I appreciate him because he's keeps me focused on what I want to do. And he's like, what's your 5 lakes, Jason? And I'm like, what do you mean? And he goes, what are the 5 spots you want to make sure you hit this ice fishing season in our area? And I'm like, I don't know. So
that's a good episode.
We talked about it a little bit. I do not have those lakes, but I have some theories on how I want to approach that. And so I'd like to share that if we can remember the next episode.
We will, for sure.
On what my methodology might be. I don't know if it'll be successful or not, but I have a theory because Iowa is so different, when it comes to finding quality fish, than Minnesota is. Especially in eastern Iowa, I'm kind of in the desert of quality fishing. So I have some thoughts.
Cool. No, that's going to be awesome. We're also going to talk about new gear at some point here because that's the kind of time of year we're in. And
and I've got a parable I want to share that's going to set up what my philosophy might be this season.
Yep. I like that.
That's going to be kind of fun. So we do just some ticklers here buried in the middle of nothingness about what next episode. If you've hung with us through all our ramblings, you now know. And if you don't know, then you didn't listen.
Yeah.
And now we know.
What do we know?
Well, if they say, well, what are you doing next season? And we've already released this episode, we know they haven't listened to the whole episode.
Yeah, I know.
It's like when you read an email, you don't only read like the header of the email and you never read the whole email. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. No, I think we're going to talk about wheelhouses a little bit this year.
Yep.
Talk about that. We'll have some interviews. We've reached out to a few people, so we have some good candidates. So be talking to some other people because eventually you get tired of hearing from us. Maybe
I assume so.
We will breach 100 episodes this year, Jason.
That is
100.
I mean, 8 years, Jeff. Did you ever think we'd get to 8 years of this?
No.
It's
From
crazy.
driving home from work going, we should do a podcast about ice fishing.
A podcast. Yeah.
100 episodes.
Yeah. Here we are.
Yep. And we'll do a destination for sure. We have at least one destination on the top 5 we will talk about eventually at some point.
We do, and we've got our hard water invitational trip already in the books. Scheduled and ready to go.
Yep.
Yeah.
We won't give that away yet, but it's
Oh
coming.
no, you've got to hang with us till what? Probably January before we'll share that.
Yeah, but you probably won't hear about it until next year, honestly, because
you might not.
Because it'll be end of February when we do that, and that might be quiet time for ice fishing.
Yeah, so you might not even hear about that trip. You heard the lead up, but you'll have to wait a whole year to figure out.
Yeah.
Did we do any good?
All right. Well, I think we'll go into our topic about ice fishing Winnie with Ole and Northwoods Dave.
Lake Winnibigoshish, here we come.
Hello.
Me. Yeah. All right. That stupid refrigerator makes a lot of noise, but it is what it is. Just make sure and talk. Don't get too quiet. We'll be fine. All right.
Welcome to the Hard Water Fishing Show. It's Jeff and Jason talk tactics, beer, gear, and ice fishing.
We don't talk about beer.
No, we don't mention that part. We just talk about it.
It's not in the thing.
All right.
We talk about what we drink.
Yeah, but that's not part of our tagline.
No, it's not.
You can't just change. You can't just waltz in here at the end of 7 seasons. 7 seasons?
Yeah.
And change your tagline, Dave.
Well, then why it should be added because you always talk about beer. You sit there and buy stuff from a gas station.
Rebranding is a difficult situation.
Really?
Yeah, we're not.
We talked about it all year.
I don't think it would cost you that much to rebrand.
I think there's a lot of underestimated costs.
I think you exaggerated times a day.
Here we go.
That was good. What was wrong with that?
That was no start.
All right.
Today on the Hardwater Fishing Show, we are at the Hardwater Invitational, and we have Northwoods Dave.
Hello.
Ole.
Hey.
And Jay, of course.
Don't sound so excited about that. And Jay.
And Jay is here. We are in person, so the voice of the sound might be a little different, but we're ready to roll. So, we are fishing Winnibigoshish Lake in northern Minnesota.
Winnibigosh.
I just made it up. I don't know.
Lake Winnie.
What we called it? Winnibigosh.
Fact checks coming is what
I think it's
hear.
Winnibigosh. I've never heard it called anything else other than that.
Siri, what
and
is
Winnie.
it?
No.
All right. Anyway, well, someone let us know.
Yeah. So
there was the first rabbit hole we tripped over.
all right, we're gonna cover a few things like gear, transportation tactics, and presentation that we did over the weekend. So let's start with transportation, and I'll let the transportation. I don't have any transportation, so we'll start with Northwoods Dave. What were you running this weekend, Dave?
Well, I was running a Ranger with full cabin and heat. Very nice out there.
Talk about fancy.
Just rub it in.
Yeah.
Just keep it up.
Country club fishing.
Country club fishing.
Put it this way, a wife came up with an idea last month to trade off her four-wheeler, and we ended up with a brand new Razor or a Ranger.
It's a Razor? You look like a Razor kind of guy.
It's so new he doesn't even know what it's called.
I know.
And I'll put it this way.
You really wanted a Razor, didn't you?
Yeah, she wanted something utility-wise.
Okay, she did. Okay.
Put it this way, we doubled the miles on that machine, and she let me take it.
But we didn't break it.
We didn't break it. And
of course, you didn't let me drive either.
No.
Yeah.
No.
There's that.
I don't know. I enjoyed being a Princess Passenger. It was warm, and I was pretty happy.
Did you guys like... Never mind.
I think it worked really slick because you were in a heated cab, hands-free to be able to navigate on the fly. That was really nice because first morning I'm like, wait a minute, this is dumb. I'm freezing my hands. He's sitting there
holding his cup of coffee,
scratching his neck or something.
But then it was also nice having the back end to throw a bunch of stuff
Oh,
in.
that
So
was,
it was
yeah.
easier to run and gun with.
We didn't
that
have to
thing.
do the utility sled
Right.
like
We didn't
for
have the
the-
extra pull sled or nothing
for
like
the
that.
charcoal.
Well, if you got a big trunk, I'm gonna put my bicycle in.
But out here, if tire chains were needed, I need to find a set for the front tires now because it was a little hard steering.
All go and no stop.
Yeah, that's what it was. Rear tire chains worked great to get going, but to turn on that slick ice, it was a little tough.
And it got shinier as the weekend progressed.
It did.
One thing you didn't mention, how fast we could move. Usually you put your auger in your sled, your shack.
Yep.
And having it strapped to the front, Ole had his strapped to the front to the auger, and we had stuff in the bed. You could like move super fast because, like in the woods, we would put all of our gear in the shack, and you still have to kind of dig everything out and
Take the cover off.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's a good point. So
It was-
to stop and check depth, literally you take the auger off the front, grab a flasher off the bucket rack on your machine or out of the bed of his Ranger, and then you could check depth, and if it wasn't where you wanted to go, you could move. You didn't have to pull a cover off a sled, didn't have to do any of that. So it made checking depth and looking for spots a lot quicker, for sure.
part of that was the ice conditions, though, right? I mean, there's no snow. It's wide open. Even though you had to have tire chains, we could drive anywhere. If there was a foot of snow out there, it would be a little tougher.
Yeah, then we'd have to bring snowmobiles, or hopefully they'd make it through. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
What were you riding, Jay?
A Honda Rancher, I think, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Is that what it is?
It's
I borrowed a four-wheeler from my dad. Dave's shaking his finger at me because apparently I tapping my.
We need video. I brought the video camera, but I didn't hook it up. This is
He
only
keeps
audio.
tapping his little pop can on
Yeah,
the
I
table
do
here,
that. All right. Anyway, so Honda Rancher, it's old ATV. I don't even know what year it is. My dad got it from my grandpa.
2000s.
It's the 2000s, yeah.
Yeah.
But it ran good. It's an old dog. It kind of lives up at the cabin usually. I think it's its first outing ever that it's ever either been up by Perm or up by Stone Lake. So it got some mileage because we took it out to North Dakota too. So it's certainly been around. Dave helped me put chains on it.
Oh, yeah.
Northwoods Dave did, which is good because I would had to Google that.
He was worried when I said sometimes you have to cut some
You
chains
cut
to
the
length.
chain. The chains said they fit, but apparently they don't.
So I brought all the tools with and
Pulled the grinder out.
pulled the grinder off, cut off wheel, and he looked at me when I started cutting
I
links
was
off there,
skeptical.
and he was like, "Oh, gee,
I was a little
what are you
skeptical
doing?"
because safety protocols weren't quite in place, but he didn't lose any fingers. And then Ole donated a couple of zip ties, and we had chains on it.
Yeah.
And they stayed on the whole time. And we used, what were those things? So it found a chain tightener. There's like a bungee
just
cord
a
chain tightener with some
Tire
plastic
chain
clips.
tensioner, which is like a
Worked great.
circular bungee cord with
Yeah,
clips.
it was like $11 for the set.
Yep.
And that was super quick to put on. So ran good, except for the small thing with the fuel shut off. But I think we got that figured out as the weekend went.
Yeah, I think it fixed itself.
I think it did.
Yeah.
Maybe it was just unused and sat too much, and you
I
got
think
some.
the
Possible.
float was sticking open or
Yeah.
sticking shut.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, for a while there, if you didn't turn the gas off, it would just drain all the gas out of the tank through the carb.
Just
The
ask,
float was sticking.
just ask Kathy.
Yeah,
in Sean's
yeah,
garage
a little
floor.
bit of a situation there, but
So lucky I had the Ranger, so we can carry an extra 5-gallon
we
can
did
of
carry gas.
with in the back.
Had to have
Yeah.
an auxiliary gas can because for a while, if you just jumped off and went to fishing and you didn't turn the gas off, you lost most of your gas. But that never happened in the lake, Minnesota DNR. If you're listening,
It didn't actually.
only ever happened in Sean's garage and on Sean's trailer. So
Yes.
no environmental impact there. Sean, what are you
Took one
driving?
for the team.
Sean, what are you driving?
Yamaha Big Bear, aka the Staggered Special.
The Staggered Special.
Yeah.
Why is
The
it called?
four-wheeling boys all know what that is.
You got your
Okay.
lug
From Days
nuts
of
tight.
Thunder.
Yeah. Yep.
Days of
It
Thunder.
is, yeah. So front auger rack and rear rack bag to carry extra fuel bottles and whatever we needed, and chains.
You've had that machine a long time.
Yeah, it's an 02, so 23 years.
It's older than your children.
It is. Yep, and it runs like a top. So put new shocks and the muffler on, and it's kind of fun. It feels like a new machine to me.
Mm.
So it's kind of fun and exciting to get on it again.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it worked great. It's real quick to just hop on and off and run the auger, especially with the mild temps we had. There were times in the morning, especially when sitting inside side by side would have been preferred, but
You know,
the rest of the weekend it was pretty much a non-event.
our older trips, back when we usually have just one or two machines, be it 2 sleds or whatever. I feel like we had a lot more togetherness, though.
Yeah, you behind me hugging me, you get a little scary.
You're riding double. We just don't have the same level of connection we used to.
Well, you did have a lot of traction.
Yeah,
I did notice that twinkle in your eyes missing.
So something else that we talked a lot about this weekend was augers. We didn't bring Dave's old school Strikemaster gas one. We left that at home.
I didn't bring my old XL 3000 with, but I did bring my Solo with.
Oh, you got the Solo Cup.
Just in case, so that's still in the truck, but we used all those new fancy
I don't think they're new anymore, Dave. No. I mean, that's not new.
No, in fact, my batteries are kind of misbehaving.
Did we hear any gas augers this weekend?
I heard one.
Did you really?
Those guys that drove out their four-wheeler that you talked to,
oh, yeah,
they had a gas one.
Okay. Yeah, whenever you hear one now, you're like, oh, yeah.
Gas I thought there was a pocket rocket with studded tires.
I don't know. I thought I heard one, but yeah. Yeah, so, I mean, I had the Strikemaster that I've had for a long time. It works. I think next year I'm going to get maybe try the light flight.
Yeah, yours is still, like, there's no weight savings on yours.
No,
it just doesn't put fumes in your wheelhouse, that's all.
And you don't have to start it every time. I mean, it's still pretty, it works really well. But I know you had some battery issues that you couldn't quite
the
pin
ion
down.
batteries, I mean, it was pretty mild. I've never had issues with it unless it was below 0. But I did have to baby the batteries once or twice just to get them warm.
Mm-hmm.
But as far as lasting, I mean, I don't even think I got one battery down to half in a day.
The only time I've ever used a whole battery in one day is when we're in Lake of the Woods pushing that 10-inch bit through like 3 feet of ice. That's the only time I've ever run out of like had to use the second battery.
Yeah. But they're light, fast, easy.
Yeah.
Do you rotate your batteries?
I don't know. I don't have them labeled.
Okay.
I mean, I'm sure they get randomly rotated. I mean,
mine's 4 and one is 6 amp hours, so that's the only way I can keep track.
Do you rotate your blades? That helps.
I have the original blades from like 6 years ago on. I'm sure they need to be sharpened, but they work just fine. I mean, I'm sure thousands of holes with that.
I watched a friend of mine drill with the brand new 40-volt Strikemaster earlier in the season, and watching how fast his went through the ice, I'm like, probably need to sharpen my blades.
Yeah.
Because I was amazed at how fast it went through.
No, you sharpen or just replace?
Sharpen. You can do both. For like my Jiffy, I have 3 sets of blades, but that's a chipper blade too, which actually isn't as susceptible to dull blades. It still kind of chews through no matter what, but they're faster when they're sharp. So, but they get a lot of money for them.
They do.
It's like $45 to $75 for a pair, so it's not hard to just take them off. You're taking them off to replace them anyway, to just run a file across them and get them sharp.
So do you have a tool, or do you just use like by hand?
You know what? I don't have a tool for the ion yet because I've never sharpened them, but I would imagine like one of those stone pucks like you use for an axe would probably do it. Or my dad's got a really slick setup in his basement.
I wonder, can you use like a little grinder and a Dremel? Would that work?
I think the
my
angles.
dad's got a bench grinder with a cardboard wheel, and you put like stuff on it, like you would a stone, and honing.
I'm not gonna lie, I need to replace my Eskimo ones. I'm probably just gonna buy a new set.
It's so quick and easy to sharpen.
I know though, for the auger blades, they're very precise on the angle of the grinding. Like I know they're a little particular. I don't know how.
Yeah.
I think next year I'm just gonna buy the plastic. It's fine. The plastic auger bit, and that'll come with new blades.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But I'll keep the other one as a backup. But it's funny though, because I always wonder if we'll get off this in a second. But I always wonder if the blades, there's this thing where, if you hit sand or rock with those razor blades, like the Strikemaster, and your Ion has the razor edge ones too.
So is the Eskimo.
Yeah, so the Eskimo. They're like, but if you hit a sand, you're gonna break them. I mean, you're gonna make them dull and they won't work, which probably is true. But it's never happened to be.
So I have drilled into a sandbar with my Jiffy, with the chipper blades.
Okay.
I can tell you that the same is true. I literally could not drill a half inch after I hit the sandbar. I had to run into town. Luckily, there was a bait shop right on the lake, and they had a spare set of blades that I had to cough up like $75 for.
Because you wanted to fish,
right? And actually on a Jiffy, it's pathetic because it's a blade. It was an expensive blade, but put me back into the fishing, right?
Now, was that before you had all these GPS and depth things on your phone?
No. Navionics said I was in probably 7 feet of water, but I think the lake was 3 feet down.
Okay.
And I was on clear water, which is 1 million sunken islands. But but I guess I consider sharpening your auger blades kind of like sharpening your knife. When my fillet knife is dull, I don't throw it away. I just sharpen it and I'm back in action for another, 5 years.
Yeah.
I think
there's a huge return on that.
I think the difference, I hear what you're saying, but the difference if I sharpen my fillet knife and I go to cut my fish, fillet my fish, and it's not as quite as sharp as I want, I can go take another go at it and continue on my way.
Yeah.
If I sharpen them auger blades and don't get it right, and then I'm out fishing, I have no way to test it until I'm on the lake with my stuff, only to find out I mucked it up. And that is worth the $30 to me.
Yeah.
And then keep the old, basically okay sharp ones as a backup set. Because I don't have a backup set. Right?
You live on a river. Just walk down to the river, drill a hole.
Walking down to the river it's riprap. Covered in snow in the winter, not a thing.
Sharpening stones.
And it's a June project. It's hard to find ice.
It is.
But
I guess I could buy a block of ice from the store.
Local ice arena just hates it.
So I guess my point is like I've heard this rumor. What do you want to call it? This legend, or what do you call those things that are like not true? Urban legend, whatever, ice fishing legend. That's really bad because we have legends on the show, but that, don't get those straight razor blades because you're going to hit dirty ice and they're going to be done. And I'm telling you, in all of my ice fishing, I've never seen that happen.
Yeah, I fish, all these little farm lakes and Mississippi River with mine, and I've not. It is slowed down when we compared it to Steve's at North Dakota.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Certainly was running slower, but still very, didn't notice until I was next to him.
I remember years ago, your Strike Master, something was up with the shaft. It got tweaked.
Actually, the shaft got bent just a little bit, and it would not cut.
Yep, you couldn't drill half inch of that either. So sometimes I think it's not so much the angle of the edge you put on the blades; it's the angle of the whole blade itself.
That makes sense,
and that's not going to change with you sharpening it.
That makes sense.
Well, that's what happens when they bounce around in your shacks versus strapping them onto the front of the Ranger, so you're not bouncing on everything.
Right.
So I want to hear from one of our listeners. A, do you sharpen your own blades? And B, have you ever hit dirty ice where they go bad? I would love to hear both.
Not into a sandbar, but just ice.
Dirty ice, yes.
But the thing is, you got to be smart out there. You don't drill where, like, a truck has been sitting there that's dripping sand and salt off their thing. You go to the side of it, Just because they were just right there looks like a good spot. If somebody had their truck parked there, they're going to be dripping sand and salt from the access.
I don't know. I always look for the middle of the road on the ice road, and that's where I drill my hole because that's usually a good idea.
A lot of people do.
Get really popular.
Everybody,
not the kind of popularity you want, but
infamous, not famous. Is that what you're saying?
Don't drill on ice roads. Just gonna say it. Someone's got to be the adult.
Everyone's gonna know you so fast.
There's that guy.
It's a way to meet people.
All right, so we're going to talk about tactics here on the Lake Winnie. We're going to call it Winnie from now on, just to make it easy. Lake Winnie. So first thing is, how did we pick where we went fishing?
Like on the lake, or just how do we end up on Winnie?
Well, let's not talk about Winnie. That's a whole nother episode. Let's talk about, we are on the lake. We're right next to this lake, which is super awesome, super easy access. But we go out there, and you have the third biggest lake in Minnesota, is what we looked up.
That's correct.
So third biggest lake in Minnesota, and we have to find a spot. Where do we go fishing? There's structure everywhere on this lake. This is not one of those, there's 2 spots. There's 1,000 spots out there. So what do we do?
How did we decide where we went the first day?
I don't know. We just
looked at our navionics
and looked at contours.
Yep.
Drop offs.
Rocks. We went to rocks first day.
Humps.
Mid-lake humps.
Channels that might have fish going through.
Really what we were trying to do was find stuff on the map that had good contours to it and was a fish funneling fish.
Yep.
Based from moving shallow to deep or deep to shallow with some structure. I'm being too vague and I don't like that. So I'm trying to make it like more specific for people.
The first day we struggled on figuring, okay, what depth should we go
at? We have no idea what depth.
That's true, because we started out, we want to fish a depth, but we weren't sure which one.
Which depth we wanted to fish. Yeah.
I would definitely say day one was I was more focused on depth. And then day two started to look at inside versus outside turns. Then we started to focus towards the end of that day on a hump versus just drops. Like mid-lake humps, because I think we had seen it on social media reports.
There's 1,000 humps out there.
1,000.
Yeah.
Then we had 2 shacks running and gunning and conquering and dividing.
Yep,
and
so we'd split up.
See where...
Split up.
So when we started out, there's I think it's like a riverbed. Does a river flow through? There's like a big line that goes through the middle.
They do have a dam here, so it is sort of a flowage.
So you could see there was a crease that was deep, right?
It's in Mississippi, right?
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay, well.
Ole Miss.
There's going to be all kinds of fact checks on this one, I'm sure. But we fished along that quite a bit, even by those rocks. And one thing I found, this is a theory because we didn't really prove it, but there's some really steep breaks here. Like Dave and I fished on one spot that was like a wall. I mean, it was like
10 feet and 10 feet.
Yeah. I mean, your Vexlar and my Hummingbird could not find the bottom very well because it was so steep. And there was no fish there.
No.
They seem to like slower transitions, which is kind of weird and different than you usually think. You usually look for the steepest break that you can find. We had to find flatter breaks because it was too steep in a lot of places.
And then we were looking for those saddles too. I think that's where we started having more luck, and we started kind of looking for those generalized saddles.
Something that the fish would flow through.
As they transition.
We fished, we were targeting like 30, 29, 31 during the day. And then in the evening, we would go up to like 25 or 24 on top of a hump versus the deeper part of us hump. The one day we found a 31-inch hole, or 31-foot hole. 31 inch. Then I hit my auger and it hit dirty sand, and then it was all over. But anyways, 31-foot hole. And we found perch there. So we found them in that 31 range.
During the day.
And then at night, in the evening at night, it was shallower.
Yeah.
Like 20 feet.
But we didn't catch
walleyes.
Did we catch a walleye during the day? It was always at dusk.
No.
And you caught them, the window was like 10 minutes.
It was like a 15-minute
window.
window.
Dave got that cigar at like 2.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
And that was really deep.
Yeah, that was
like 32 feet.
Yeah.
One thing that I started, because I have Navionics too, but I don't use it all the time because I have my Helix 7 with a map, but it's a lot easier to hold it in your hand than it is to look at your Helix thing with all the battery and everything. But Ole, I started doing what you do, and he has shading on the depth. So I colored the depth that we were targeting, and then it just showed up on the whole lake, and you could see just the spots you wanted to fish because you shaded that depth.
I do that
kind of like a depth highlight. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Kind of like a depth highlight with your Minn Kota.
Yeah,
exactly what I was going to say.
So when you're not doing that in open water, the depth highlight on the ice it helps me see the forest through the trees, especially on a lake like this with this much structure. Otherwise, it's just lines, and you almost go cross-eyed trying to figure it out.
But don't do it in red, because when we're trying to find a spot that we're tracking to get to the next spot, it's red arrow. So it sort of blends into the whole depth. It's like, what did you do, Jeff? Where are we going?
It just disappeared.
That did happen.
That's really funny.
Yeah.
No, that depth highlight is super helpful. I use it in the summer too when you go to a new lake, because you can, if you're, I want to target 15 feet of water, you turn that on and you're like, okay, now I can find the little spots. If I want to find this little mid-lake hump or this little depression or whatever, it starts highlighting it.
Or when
for
you're
you.
long lining on a break.
Yeah,
It helps you hold that contour and stick
absolutely.
with it. Yep.
But long lining is just a lot more difficult ice fishing, though.
There were some cracks
A
out
lot
here.
of drilling.
A lot of chainsaw work. We had Northwoods Dave. He could have chainsawed us a slot.
Well, it could have, but this
Could you mount a
thickness, my
chainsaw on the back of that?
20-inch bar would have
See
worked.
what you're not seeing what I'm seeing in my head.
I see what you're seeing. Mount a chainsaw on the back of the Ranger that
with an arm.
goes down and
Yeah, with a
just keep
tilt,
on
just
driving.
like this, and then the other one comes along a foot and a half along the other side.
Well, I do have 2 gas chainsaws, so I can make it a channel.
We could make this happen.
Northwoods Dave would do that. We have Woodbury Dave.
So would you be more popular if you drill a hole in the middle of the road, or more popular if you cut a channel across the middle of the lake
Just
for
on the
everybody
break.
to fall
Just on the
into?
break.
Or what if we
All
do
right.
like
We
those
digressed.
commercials? They do that little hole and put a
We need
motor
to do
into a
that
circle.
sometime. Can we do that?
All right. Well, all right. So location, we were fishing 29 and 32 during the day, 25 at night on humps.
You know, the one thing I'm still not good at, and I wish we had. I had a camera. I know. Thanks. There's more
just
than
one.
There's more than one. It's a rough crowd here, folks. Is like, what is the bottom? You know what? You can tell kind of hard bottom on your flasher, but that's what when I had the camera, I need to get a new one because I sold it looking for a better one. But that's what I used the camera for, was to put it down to the bottom to look exactly what the bottom is, because I'm still working on that. I'm learning.
It's very difficult to determine substrate.
Yeah.
Like, where's the mud to gravel transition? Because that's a money spot.
Yeah, because when you read the magazines, it's like, well, you want to fish the mud to gravel
Right.
transition. It's like, okay.
And I
is there
saw
a sign for
numerous
that?
reports earlier in the season on leech. For those that did their homework and are fishing over those transitions, they hit pay dirt, and they were doing very well. But that's spot on the spot.
I know.
And how do you do that without a camera?
But see, I think that's the next level for us.
Yeah, it takes a lot of prep work.
Separates the men
we're
from the
here
boys.
for 3 days. We have all sorts of daylight. We could
We should
take
do more
the
of
time
that.
on day one to get that figured out, and then just sit on the honey hole for the rest of the
Oh,
time.
there's a whole nother episode. Do you keep on searching your fish where the
I
fish
know.
are? So thinking about, we did have some pretty heavy duty electronics, even though we didn't have a camera. It's the only thing we don't have.
I know.
We have every different brand and kind of flasher. Well, I guess they're mostly Vexilars. You have a Hummingbird. I have a
Hummingbird.
Helix 7, but Ollie's got the live scope. So how did the live scope change how you fished in all this lake?
We tried.
At one point, we moved around and said we're not going to wet a line until we're marking fish, and then we marked fish, and when we wet the lines, the fish went away.
They did.
But,
And then these guys just picked a spot on the map and started hammering. So,
Right.
I don't know which is better.
I will admit, I mean, the two of you guys never came to us because we said we're
Yeah.
on them.
I know.
We were coming to you every
And
time. You guys just landed on the spot every time. So
And-
we were always running to you, but we
And
always
you
divided and
showed up,
conquered.
and they showed up, and they didn't bite anymore.
It's something I think we're going to have to keep track of is, you know, Jeff and I had talked.
Who Jay fishes with. And
Well,
see
that-
if it's just a Jay
That's
thing.
true. It could be me. It is that possibility. Although, yeah, we won't go there. But, you know, Jeff and I talked about this. There was some media out earlier in the season about the effect of Panoptix live scope on fish. And so it's just something we're going to keep track of, you know, when we're fishing two houses next to each other, you know, if the house with the Panoptix continues to catch less fish than the one without it, is there something to that? I don't know how you even measure that, but it's just interesting.
You'd have to be further away, because when we're next to each other, the Panoptix is, I mean, you're seeing our baits in your shack. I mean, you're
And
too
that's
close.
sort of annoying. Oh, Dave, there's a fish coming for you. I
It was a
still
lot
don't
of fun.
see it.
It was a lot of fun.
There might have been a little tomfoolery. It's just to keep them more interested.
Except for that one time.
It's like Dad when he pretends to set the hook in the boat. Say, oh, I just missed one.
Well, that one time I had fish at both of my lines. So
Yeah.
there.
It's kind of fun watching the jig, watching the fish, watching the jig, watching the fish.
So that gets a little annoying when they're saying that stuff. So
You know what's more annoying? Not catching fish and listening to you cackle. That's what's annoying.
yep.
All right. So we
You
talked a
got
little
your
bit
water
about
down.
species, but, you know, what species were we hitting this weekend? What were we targeting?
Perch, northern, walleyes.
We probably started out targeting walleye.
But we ended up.
And we started catching really nice perch by like what 10 to 12-inch perch.
Yeah.
So kind of in that jumbo perch category. And so that kind of changed our thinking a little bit.
There's a number of bodies of water that we've done over the years where the perch saved the day, right? We're always going to pick walleye.
Yep.
We won't put ourselves on a body of water that doesn't have walleye.
No.
Unless it was some phenomenal lake trout fishery, which we've done some larks. But outside of that, it's always going to be walleye based or focused. And then the jumbo perch saved the day. They did it here. They did it on bowstring,
vermilion,
devils, vermilion.
Yeah,
actually, vermilion we got on the whitefish too, and we actually did fairly decent on walleye when we found that bar.
Yeah.
I mean, those 12-inch perch fight hard. Like more than once, I'd be like, Dave, I got something big. You got to pull my Vexlar thing, whatever, hummingbird thing. And you pull up a 12-inch perch, but they shake their head. They fight. They're all over the place. It was fun.
Many times they'll swing around your hole and catch the other guy's line.
Yeah.
So
we had a couple. We had our first triple this.
Our first triple.
We did have a triple.
Yeah, that was real fun to witness.
Yeah. And of course, Sean wasn't in the triple.
He's just an observer.
The northern were. What would you say about the northern in this lake that we saw?
They were just small and hungry.
And there's a slot, so you can't really keep them anyways. So.
But they're all like that 22, 23 in the slot.
Yeah.
So.
But they were nice. You'd catch a few of them here and there on tip-ups, a couple in the lines.
And the walleye were tough, right? I mean,
they were super tough bite.
One of us didn't catch any.
Yeah, Jeff didn't catch any. No surprise there.
I caught a lot of perch, though.
He did. He did really well.
It is kind of surprising, actually, because if you look in the last 5 years, I wouldn't be throwing any trash. I won't be throwing any.
But I may go home with the trophy for crappiest fisherman, so we'll see.
Well, who caught the biggest walleye this?
Well,
gee, I wonder who asked the question.
Well, no. Officially, Dave caught the biggest walleye. Unofficially, I caught the biggest walleye.
Why is that, Jay?
I left the trophy at home because I didn't have enough payload capacity to bring it.
Which now he has to ship it.
I'm going to ship it. Or I'm just going to send my kid on a midnight run with it to drop it on your doorstep.
And what trophy was that?
The species trophy. Dave.
And who gets that?
You get the species trophy, Dave.
Okay.
I should have got the biggest walleye trophy, but I neglected to bring the species trophy.
That is one of our rules. If you forget a trophy, you're disqualified.
We have 4 trophies. There's biggest walleye or
largest walleye
or lake trout.
Or lake trout that we've never caught. That we've never caught one of those. There's a crappiest fisherman, which is a toilet seat.
Well, on a receiver hitch.
Yep, on a
it
receiver
works,
hitch.
Oli, right?
It does work very well.
And then there's the species, which is the biggest hunk of steel pole that you've ever. I mean, it's 6 feet tall of steel.
No, it's only 5 foot long.
Dave was bored one winter, and when he was laid off, and he made a trophy with stuff laying around in his
solid
garage.
steel rod.
It's very inventive.
Yeah,
but it's
different size pipes for eyelets and a big old.
You have to lock it in the car so no one steals it for scrap.
Yeah, and a big old treble hook on there that I made.
You could have a roll of copper wire in that trophy, and they take the trophy.
Probably
because it's worth more to scrap.
I would like to request a drop hitch addition to that trailer.
Yeah, trucks have gotten higher, and you're gotten older.
I just can't reach.
But the thing is,
can't even dangle my toes.
We'll have to add a step stool.
I'll have
a
to
squatty potty.
Make an adjustable one, because if we're out there fishing and Jeff needs it on the Ranger, we might need a riser on
it. Yeah. There's your Shark Tank idea.
Yeah, there we go. We watched Shark Tank last night. That show's fun. We would have watched it. We'd still be watching it if we wouldn't turn the TV off.
Shut this off.
Well, that's a lark.
We talked about you gotta have larks. What were we using presentation wise? I know Slab Seeker, tungsten Slab Seeker. I used pink. Well, that was pretty popular. Dave, I don't think I used anything but a Slab Seeker.
That's the only thing I used. Mine was sort of a greenish orangish one.
I would call perch.
Perch, right? Like a perch
clown,
one.
Don't they usually call that color combo clown?
No,
they just call him a clown. Oh wait, sorry.
The clown that used it.
But then my other Slab Seeker was like a blue and silver one that I was catching them on too.
So I was also using that. I used a bunch of lures before I settled on that. And I settled on that because Dave caught one walleye.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what are you using? And then I used a different color, not realizing it wasn't the same color you used. So mine was more of a perchy. So like a perch colored?
Yeah. It's
slab
like your
seeker?
orange and yellow.
No, there's no orange on it.
Green?
I think we
More
call
green.
everything
Yeah.
a perch color.
It's more
if
green.
it's not pink.
More
Side pink.
two-tone green
Yeah.
is what it was. Like a darker green and a lighter green. And that's what I caught. All the walleyes I caught
It
was
was
on
almost
that.
a metallic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's weird not... We've used buckshot so heavily for years. It almost felt not right to use that. And I resisted the temptation many times to switch back. Because I did try that originally.
We are not sponsored, but I don't know what it is about that slab seeker. I mean, I've used other lures, but after watching Dave catch too many fish, I'm like, I can't not use it. And I mean, it catches walleyes, pike, and perch on this lake. Everything.
I use those all the time on Nunya Lake at my place,
Yeah,
and
Nunya.
for crappies and catch them all the time.
But at least that's
I
what
use.
it's made for. Slab seeker.
The slab seeker that when Widowmaker was talking about it, the big slab seeker was for walleyes. But when I got them, they look small. It's like that's what I use for my crappies. But they do work for walleyes and anything else will bite.
I bought two. This is a little off subject, but I bought 10 of them in a pack, 2 packs this year, and they're not expensive. Like they're cheaper than buckshots. I don't know.
I continue to come away with the conclusion that I've got just too much tackle.
I have a
You end up
bag of
using
tackle.
like one lure.
That's true.
The
I
whole
saw
time.
it spill all over the
It
edge.
did not. It hung on. A few fell out. It's just, you have all this stuff and you end up using, like I tried some different things. I tried a chubby darter. I tried a buckshot. I tried just a plain hook, a couple different colors of hooks. Tried a VCM spoon. I tried all sorts of different things. VMC.
Yeah, VMC.
VMC. But just kind of kept coming back to that. It's harder. You have to have confidence in the lure you have down.
You do.
But the trouble is, which was one of our troubles here, is you with the live scope, you can see what the marks are down below. And so sometimes you're like, how big a fish is that? And with the live scope, you could see, okay, this is a small perch.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas before, I think I switched lures a lot more because I would fish. You get some marks come in, nothing bites. I'm like, okay, I'm switching lures.
Yeah.
I'd switch. And with this, you're like, you can see that they're just little perch or some mid-size, smaller perch. So it's like, well, I'm not going to switch the lure just because something didn't bite. So I wonder how many times in my life I've switched lures because perch are like, I don't think so. Like little perch, because they show up on the flasher.
That's what you see on the live scope is how many tiny perch are there, and on a Vexilar it looks like you have a really nice walleye staring you down, and then on the live scope you watch it morph into
We'd see this nice looking mark come in, and then all of a sudden it'd go poof, and it'd blow up, and it'd be like 4 little perch. You're like, oh.
So when it all stayed together, you're like, ooh.
So Ole, you were not running a slab seeker. What were you running?
I didn't even know what a slab seeker was, and that will never happen again.
Okay, that means he has not been listening to your podcasts.
No, I haven't. I am way behind. I have no commute, so I don't.
Listen to it in the bathroom in the morning.
I was seeing the slab seeker that Jay put on when he started to mimic Dave's success. And so I looked in my tackle box, and I had a Halley spoon, which I bought in Devil's Lake, which was really effective on the jumbos there. So I'm like, okay, well, makes sense that the Slender is doing well because it's very similar. And then I had a VMC dropper chain hook on it.
Yep.
And so I was using that most of the weekend, and then I had one of those new glow spoons, I guess, from Northland.
Yeah, with the sticks that you make your glow.
It's sticks, and it's more like a glass. It's not like a buckshot.
Mm-hmm.
Not super sold on that yet, but I was using that a little bit, and then my tried and true is always a plain hot pink hook, and or tin red or fire red. Those 3. Just a plain hook to me for the last few seasons has been outperforming everything else. I've kind of gone away from getting super hot on a lure. I think that's more about the angler than it is the fish. The only reason I put on a lure is if I'm trying to, with a rattle or a glow stick, to try and bring them in. Because at the end of the day, I think it's more about simplicity, especially in bodies of water that are gin clear.
Yeah, this like fishes like Mille Lacs because it is very clear. So that's why
Very
pink.
clear lake.
Things I thought about was I do this from Mille Lacs. I run I have a floral leader. So I have a small swivel. I have a floral leader. And then I run my normal line up from that braid line. I have braid above that because I like using braid. And I think when you have super clear lakes, I like pink. I like small. I don't like noisy because I feel like noisy works on Lake of the Woods because they can't see the freaking lure.
The stained.
Yeah, but this is a very clear lake. Like you could see your lure way down there. I don't know how far, but way down there. So yeah, I think this fishes. If you fish Mille Lacs, you would fish very similar here. I feel like there's more structure here, but the clarity of the water makes a big difference. I think.
Interesting. Well, I tried a coffin spoon too. 2 different colors of coffin spoons.
Yeah, I have some of those.
Didn't work.
I've never been successful. I'm not saying people don't catch fish with them, but it has not been my jam.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the dropper chain and your slab seekers, they have a little drop on them too, right?
Not really.
No,
they
not
don't.
much.
They're just a really very thin profile
yeah.
lure. They're not
And I think that's why they
real
work.
dramatic.
They have like a little tiny spinner.
They have like a little
Little-
silver blade on them,
yeah.
like tiny.
Yeah.
But it just must be just enough flash.
Yeah.
I know.
So I think they're just enough to entice the bite, but not too much hardware to spook them away.
Yeah, that's what
And
I
that's
think.
kind of
too.
what that Halley with the dropper chain was as well. So
Well,
I think there's a lot to it. Is simplicity rules the day.
It was nice. The tungsten was nice because when you're fishing in 32 feet of water and you have a small jig, it was nice to be able to get it down there.
I did use somewhat of like I don't know if it was like a roach spoon with the marabou.
Well, yeah.
Did it work though for
And it was
anything?
clown color.
Looks like Dave.
Oh,
Or I'm sorry, Wonder Bread. It was Wonder.
Oh, Wonder Bread. Okay.
yeah, Wonder Dave.
Wonder Dave. Wonder Dave.
That's when I was just trying to get something to come in, but nothing was really pulling them in. They were coming in phases. When the school came through, be ready. It's really, I don't feel like we were able to pull things in.
Yeah.
Perfect example when we came to you the last spot with the jumbos. We're literally seeing you on the live scope, and you guys are still putting on a clinic, and we didn't see a single fish.
Yeah.
Yeah, not one.
We told them we were catching them, then we text them, another 2 in the bucket, another 1. Then it's like, we're too busy catching fish.
Yeah, we're not telling
And by
them.
the time they get over here, how many you got in the bucket? 13.
Yeah, that sucked.
All right, we did run some tip ups too. I ran it a couple times, but you guys were pretty hardcore on the tip ups. What were you guys doing with tip ups? Because we caught a couple at least one walleye was caught on it, and some northerns and a perch, right?
Yep, caught one of the walleyes. Ole caught a walleye.
Yep.
On a tip up. And I just had a orange hook.
Pink,
Okay.
hot pink.
And then we caught a northern, some perch on tip ups, but just tin red hooks on those, nothing fancy.
Not the jungle gym with 50.
No jungle gyms.
50
and then
hooks and
I think the
fun
and
dogs.
we talked
we
about
didn't
this
have
once
it big
before,
enough.
so I want to come back to it. The blue tip transmitters.
Yeah.
So we use those again this weekend. I've got them working now on my phone. I've got a Galaxy S23. Ole, they were working good on your phone. He's got an iPhone something.
Yep.
14.
when they
10.
all
they
the same.
remember to charge
Some
their
sort
phones.
of iPhone. Yeah, when I remember to charge my
It
phone.
rings when people call.
It rings when people call. It's an iPhone. And so my older phone, I couldn't get them to work. But I tell you, I when you're sitting in a house, and the nice thing about the blue tip or some sort of audible alarm, because you know right away when it goes off, versus if you're just looking out the window for the flag. I just think there's much more of a delay.
That's such an opportunity for us because I think the blue tips are cool. And I don't run tip ups often because of that reason. Because, you have your ice shack and you can see out the window, but, it's still, you're not looking at it.
You're craning
It's-
your neck all the time.
Yeah, like where the blue tips are nice or an audible, but nobody makes the blue tips are cool, but like a lower tech version. We used to make these 20 years ago with a buzzer when it goes up. Everybody has a light, but nobody has a buzzer or an audible sound. I don't know
You're
why
right.
that is.
There's really no. Fraybill used to make one, and I had one.
Yeah.
It was just an alarm that sat on the deck of the tip up, and then it had a little pin and a clip. And it was super loud. It was like a fire. I actually made one out of. Remember the fire alarm?
Oh, we've made tons of them. I don't know. Maybe this is the next product we have to come up with.
Yeah.
So I remember those Frables, and some of them were just a light.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But those Frables seemed loud. But if they were downwind, and
couldn't
you were
hear
in
them.
your shack, especially with the canvas.
Oh, and you got your buddy heater on or Mr. Heater,
Never
sunflower.
hear them. That's what I like about the Blue Tips is it brings the sound, the audible to your phone.
I agree. I mean, I think they're great. I just wish I think you could get lower tech if you tried, but I don't know what that means. So there's one other version of those I saw out there. It's called like Wolf or something that somebody made that was like longer distance. It was similar to Blue Tips, but different. We talked about them in a prior episode. So, all right. So I guess we're kind of at the end of our talking points, but does anybody have any other thoughts they want to talk about Winnie this weekend? Because we're doing a legend next. Somehow somebody has to tell some kind of legend, so we'll get there while we tell what we liked about Winnie.
Well, at least, there's no snow, and they had ice in Minnesota.
They had ice.
But you could tell first day when you're drilling, nice big chips. Yesterday drilling, it was getting a little slushier out there, and I think after tomorrow or today it's supposed to be like 50 some degrees, but then snowstorm coming in tomorrow, and the low tomorrow night will be -2.
Yeah, it's going to really be interesting.
We're up and down on temperatures, but it might be last for really good ice fishing.
What I liked about this lake, fishing this lake, is just the amount of structure. Like you never felt, well, we've tried all the spots. We've tried, like when you fish the big basin lakes, it's hard, like, well, what part of the next 29-foot flat should we go look at, or 20-foot flat? This lake had so many drops and so many interesting topographical things to it that you never felt like, gosh, there's just nothing left to try and they're not biting. Let's just go look somewhere else.
You could spend
lifetime.
Every day
of
the ice fishing season fishing this lake and probably fish a different piece of structure.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's what I find. I find that, and not like far away structure. You didn't have to go miles. And
we did, of course.
We did,
of course. Fish
you
in
can't
front of the
fish in
resort.
front of the resort. Absolutely not. It's just not right.
They kicked us right off that ice road.
I know they did. Fishing the access.
Another thing was nice. It is the last weekend of the season for walleyes and stuff like that. And on this huge lake, it actually was not busy.
There's nobody.
We were like last night, Sunday, everyone must have been home.
We were like
the
lake.
only people out there.
Third largest lake in Minnesota, and we couldn't even see anybody.
Yeah.
And it's not like we're up in the sticks. I mean, we're up north. But
so at least you didn't have to like have a group like 20 feet away. We were like miles from people.
Absolutely. Yeah.
That was nice.
Except the one spot we caught some.
We did.
And then we went out in the morning and there was somebody in it. I'm like, how is that possible?
I think we were in their spot yesterday.
Yeah.
That's my opinion, because people had clearly been where we fished that day, that morning, and found fish. And then when we got out there today, or whatever day it was, yesterday, I think they got up earlier.
Yeah, well, they walked out.
They walked out, yeah.
So
that's hardcore.
They were probably sad on Saturday when they looked out and saw us sitting there.
But yeah, they walked out. I mean, they were out a mile.
Yeah, but this easy walk.
Yeah, but they had launch just south of that.
Yeah, but they had they had a big ice shack. I mean, it was a lot of junk they had.
They could have been dropped off, though.
We saw them walking back. I don't think
did you?
They were, yeah.
When there's no snow, though, pulling a shack is easy.
It's not a big deal.
So, that giant otter flip over, I pulled that thing over a mile on Upper Red early season. There's nothing to it.
Yeah.
There's no resistance.
Yeah. As we found.
It was,
you guys.
It was Princess. I felt like I mean, I was warm. We were just.
How many cup holders did that thing have?
It had enough for my coffee and other beverage.
Well, there's like 6 cup holders in there, but
2 cup holders. I just couldn't afford the mug to put in.
But then they have slots down below that fit like bottles for some reason.
My sunglasses.
Yeah. Don't ask.
All right, so Ole, I haven't heard what your favorite thing was about this lake or this weekend.
Well, we managed to hit a lot of the big lakes, and this is one we hadn't checked off the list. But I wouldn't say check, let's move on. I would definitely come back. I agree with Jay. There's a lot of structure. It's interesting. It's very frustrating on a slow fishing day to have no structure to go to.
Yeah.
So I love that about a lake like this, and it's a manageable size. If you have machines, you can touch the whole lake. I mean, we knew somebody that was, and I thought, no, we'll never get as far as that, and we did.
Yeah.
I mean, we were smack dab in the middle of the lake. You could see 6 miles in every direction, and even when it was busier, it wasn't busy. I think it's because we're on a season with not a lot of wheelhouse traffic.
Yeah.
I do believe that it gets way busier on more typical year.
I think also.
But, I think you can always get away from people on this lake because there's so much structure.
Absolutely.
And the quality jumbos.
Oh.
And then you're going to catch some walleyes, and I think it's just kind of a tougher time right now to get the walleyes. So if you came back when the bite was a little bit more solid, I think you could have a real heyday. But I think we did pretty well considering we were new to the lake.
We learned a lot in 3 days of this lake.
Did a lot.
Yeah.
But we fish, I know, not to the level that Jason wants us to be fishing at.
Oh, God, we are still out there this morning.
We were up
time.
at 6 a.m. every day. We were on the ice 8 o'clock, 8:15.
It takes these guys forever to
I think
get
this
going.
is the most we fished, like, hours on a lake. We've been out there at 8 o'clock with lines in the water, I think, this time.
I know, you miss the sunrise every day.
6:30 or more.
Still a little lacking.
I know that we will never reach your level of, like, we have to stay on the lake, but then you're like, but we need to move.
You know, one of the favorite parts, I guess, though, to answer your question is the ride off the lake. And it's not because I'm happy to be done for the day. There's just something about that ride every time. When we've been on Lake of the Woods on the sleds and we've got a half-hour ride in front of us, it's just the way you wrap up that day and you're just kind of sucking it all in. I always look around and try and absorb all of it because it's just such a different experience than your everyday.
Absolutely.
It's dark. The moon was a full moon the other day, and last night the stars were awesome, and then we had semi-overcast. The night before we had
A full
really
moon.
cool rides on, and the wind had died down.
Yeah.
So it's just kind of a peaceful thing. You just had the dull roar of our motors and a half hour to just kind of take it all in. I really like that part of the trips every time.
The thing that I like about that too is we had good days, right? So when you're driving back, you're like, that was a good day, right? We spent the day on the ice. We caught some fish. We had the good time. I'm with you on that one. That's good.
And you know, Jay's about to put a huge meal on the table. That's a bonus too.
Yeah, compliments to our chef and the nice cooking job he did on the lake also.
Yeah, we have hot meals on the lake most days. So.
Oh, and when we don't, it's a sandwich. 2 pounds of meat and you can't even fit your mouth on it.
I don't want him to go hungry.
I mean, I think you could come. I want to bring my youngest up here because this is a good kid lake with all those perch like that. You get a lot of action and there's some walleyes mixed in. And you could come up here, not this year because I think the ice is going to be bad. There's 18 inches of ice out there, but the weather coming is real weird. So, but on a different year, you could probably come up here in March when the walleyes close and catch tons of jumbos and have a good time. I mean, you know, when everything else is closed. I thought it was a great lake. I would come back here in a heartbeat. And it's not too far, you know, like 3 hours from the cities, 3.5 hours.
Hour.
Just over 3.
Well,
1 hour.
don't give away your location of none yet, Dave. An hour within an hour of
Duluth, you know.
Yeah, sure. All right. Legend. Did we have a legend from this weekend?
No.
Oh, let's hear it. Well,
Jason has the legend. Is what
I do
just
not
heard.
have the legend. Sean has the legend.
with the wind blowing out there, Shaq's sort of blow around.
Sean could tell the legend.
So
God.
we were on the jumbo perch by Jeff and Jay are doing really well, and we parked next to them. We're still not. Felt like it was spot on the spot, right? Because it happened to us yesterday too. So we wanted to move a little bit. Jay and I are never satisfied to sit and watch little ones. We gotta
Gotta move.
Find the jumbos. So we decided to make a small move.
And it was windy, super windy.
With no snow cover. You can literally skate from one end of the lake to the other this year, right now. And so the shacks are getting a little squirrely behind the machines. And we didn't want to completely collapse the shack just to move 100 yards or so. So Jay, I said, just sit on the shack and hold the canvas open because the wind will blow it otherwise. So we get to this spot, and when I stopped the machine, the shack was more or less a kite because we kept the canvas.
A kite I was sitting on.
So the shack kept going and jackknifed on the four-wheeler. And as soon as the hitch jackknifed to the tire, it jettisoned Jason right off of the seat and onto the ice. So I look to my right and I see it happen. It was almost in slow-mo, and he just had that big eyeballs like a little kid getting tossed in the air. Because he had no control.
None. Nope, it's going to happen.
I almost wet my pants out. So, it was awesome. Definitely not concussion protocol.
It was not awesome.
Yeah.
It was awesome for Ole, not for Jason.
No, the whole thing was a poorly constructed move to not put the shack down.
We moved a couple 100 yards and everything went just fine.
Other than me.
You held that thing down like a champ.
Yeah. Flying off.
We're here. I'll get off.
Off of it at the end. Picking myself up off the ground.
It was pretty awesome.
Yeah. When that thing came around, I had the advance notice to know when it was coming around and going to stop. I'm like, oh, crap.
Well, didn't you have your ice cleats down so you could catch yourself, slow you down?
I did. I was scraping them along the ground to keep us square.
If he really dug in, I think you would have done somersaults.
But no, there was no. It's like cracking a whip, and I was at the tail of the whip.
Yeah, it was like a deer in the headlights.
So you're like inner tubing in an ice shack across the lake.
Basically,
working good.
And it stopped and launched me. Launch control.
And
so yeah,
there was no fish there either.
Yep. All right. Enough about me.
Cool. Well, I think it was a great trip. Any closing remarks before we sign off?
I just think it's one of the trips I look forward to every year. This was our 25th year.
25th
right? Doing
year,
this trip.
Yes.
Same four guys. We've never missed a year. So hopefully we have another 25 in us.
I just think it's great to get together all the time. And just to see when we started 25 years ago, the advancement in our equipment.
Just the ice fishing equipment in general.
Well, put it this way, none of us had anything.
We had a rod.
Like a rod and no sonar. Didn't even have augers back then.
No.
Nope.
And now look at us.
We had hand augers.
Yeah.
And then it was like year 2.
Dave showed up with a
Dave
power
shows
auger.
up with a power auger.
After we drilled the holes.
After we drilled ours by hand, and then all of a sudden we heard the gas. But yeah, it's been a great 25 years, and I hope for another 25.
For sure.
That might be pushing it, but I think we got it in.
As long as we get Rangers.
Yes. We might have to get some people
Ranger-
to help us get out there.
Jay
We have to go more full service.
Jay will still have that snow bear that he's getting.
The snow bear.
With hydraulics so we can get our
Yep.
wheelchairs
Yep,
in there.
with a wheelchair lift.
We'll have to pick Jay up from the memory care center.
Yeah, that's fine. As long as you break
Who are
me
you?
out.
Don't worry. You've
Don't
done
worry
this
about
for years. It'll be fine.
Show me the pictures. Okay, let's go.
Remember, you bought that snow bear.
Yep, just as long as you bust me out, I appreciate it.
Awesome. All right. Well, thanks, everybody. It's been an awesome trip.
Thank you.
Thanks. See you
Later.
Bye.
Well, Jeff, I tell you what, that trip was a lot of fun.
It was.
And I saw you posted a picture of me on Facebook from that trip.
I did. Yes.
That four-wheeler looks mint in that picture. I don't know what filter you did, but it looks better than me. Like it is the star of the show, that old Honda sitting there.
Yep.
And that is an old four-wheeler. So that thing looked great. And I look good.
But you looked pretty good.
The four-wheeler looked better.
It was a good shot. It was certainly
it was a great shot. It's like a glamour shot for me.
I have a few more of those, so we'll
cool.
trickle those out this week as we go out. So All right.
Well, thanks everybody. We really appreciate you hanging with us. Jeff, do you have any parting words?
Just cheers.
Cheers. Tight lines.
Bye. You've been listening to the Hard Water Fishing Show with Jeff and Jason.
Say goodbye.
One of the most unique podcasts on the planet, where we talk about tactics, gear, and ice fishing legends. We'll be back soon.
Bye-bye.
Till then, signing off.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.